Hey brother! Jay, I have a very important question for you.
Where's my super suit?
Leading experts say Mozart makes babies smarter.
Elastigirl's super suit is by Galbaki.
all have in common? The answer is that they all contain something left out of Incredibles 2. And honestly, that's kind of saying something, as this movie is not only Pixar's longest movie, but is the longest computer animated feature film ever. So today we're going to go over all of the top moments that didn't make it into the final cut of Incredibles 2. Hey, brother! First up is Kari, the babysitter. You know, Kari, it's just like Carrie, except for with a K instead of a C, and an A instead of an A, and only one R, and an I instead of an IE. By the way, that took me like 10 takes to get right. And if you ever want to see all of our bloopers, you can go to patreon.com/SuperCarlinBrothers, where we have an entire blooper reel after every single video. But oh my gosh, where is Kari in this movie? Like, despite us tweeting at Pixar that she needed to be included in the film, but no, they totally ignored us, despite there being so many opportunities where they could have fit her in. I mean, the movie literally opens with Rick Dicker interviewing Tony the exact same way he interviewed Kari. The need for a babysitter is basically an underlying theme of the entire movie. And Edna basically takes a page right out of Kari's playbook, playing the same music for Jack Jack when she's babysitting him. Honestly, if you ask me, it's just an absolute shame. And what makes it even worse is that at one point in time, she was actually planned to be in the movie with her parents, and yet, nothing. Next up, we have Honey, as in
The public is in danger!
My evening's in danger!
probably everyone's favorite off-screen character just of all time, and basically the best character in the first Incredibles movie, if you ask me. I mean, she just has so much depth, you know?
Great or good? I'm the greatest good you are ever gonna get!
Leading up to the release of Incredibles 2, there was some pretty fierce debate as to whether or not this character was going to return, and if so, whether or not she was going to be on screen. We here at Super Carlin Brothers were firmly on team bring her back, but keep her off camera. There's just simply too much character there to have both. And not for nothing, we were totally right. So at least we can take solace in the fact that at least they take some of our suggestions. Except for the fact that she's totally in the movie, on screen! Like, we actually see Honey. How crazy is that? Basically, it went down like this. Initially, they were going to include the character in the movie, and then they saw our video, and then of course, obviously took our advice and took her out. Yep, that is totally what happened. Definitely. Pretty sure about it. Thanks, Pixar. But because I guess they did all sorts of work, you know, building and animating the character rig and all that, they still happened to just sneak her into the movie right here. Now, I guess we know what she was actually doing with that super suit, studying it so she could make her own. And while we're talking about other characters that make their own super suits, next up is Galbaki.
Elastigirl's super suit is by Galbaki. Explain yourself.
Explain yourself indeed. I actually cannot believe that we didn't meet this character in the movie. I mean, can you even imagine a scene where Edna's like full-blown confrontational?
Fight. Win.
Somehow I'm actually like far more terrified of Edna than I am like anyone else in any of these movies. But actually that was supposed to happen, or at the very least we were going to meet Galbaki, Edna's exact opposite. Edna of course reveres supers and not only designs their suits to be fashionable, but actually to be functional and complementary to their powers. Actually, even when she isn't designing for supers, she is designing with superpowers in mind. Yet another thing that we missed out on was an Edna Mode fashion show that would have shown us supermodels, nothing super about them, showing off a lineup of designs, each representing a different superpower. Personally, I just really admire her commitment to the cause. Galbaki, on the other hand, is more in it for himself. He's just designing the suit so he can get his own name out there, and often they include a lot of like frivolous accents and are prone to rippage and excessive glitter. Long story short though, we actually do see Galbaki in the movie, although just not quite as Galbaki. They kept the character's rig and I assume some inspiration for the character himself, but we see him instead as the rich collector who buys the Incredibile, which is like the hardest to spell word ever, because is it not just the word incredible? But like, this guy buys the Incredibile and like, doesn't even plan to fight crime with it. As far as I'm concerned, it's like the functional equivalent of buying a lawnmower in New York City. Sure, the chicks dig it, but do you need it? Speaking of, do you really need it? Up next is the word the. Believe it or not, the word the is not used a single time throughout the entirety of the film, and it's actually a fun and clever nod to the title of the film dropping the and only being Incredibles 2. Honestly, I can't even tell you how often I get this wrong. It's just Incredibles 2, not The Incredibles 2. And it's because like every time you want to describe something in Incredibles 2, you have to do like the in thing, and it just doesn't sound right at all. Personally, I just like the. How many different ways can you pronounce a 3-letter word with one vowel? Also, actually, the fun fact that I just gave you about the word the not being used in the entirety of the movie was a total fabrication that I made up. I'm sorry about that. In fact, it may even be the second word in the first trailer ever released for the movie. Back to things that were actually left out of the movie though. Up next is Nelson Dever. Early on in story development, Winston was actually going to have a brother instead of a sister, but as the story continued to develop, they found out that having a sister was going to be a much better fit. It was going to be much easier for Helen to develop a meaningful rapport with a female character, and I actually felt like it paired nicely with Elastigirl kind of being the lead of this movie. That being said though, once again, we're going to see that they're not going to waste all of the time spent designing the character, and we will see what was going to be Nelson Dever as Helectrix. And fun bonus fact, until they swapped out Nelson with Evelyn, they were going to actually have a character named Shelectric. But they had a spare character model, so there you go. Also, just something that I kind of noticed, Nelson looks almost exactly like Dean from The Iron Giant, which was also directed by Brad Bird.
Coincidence? I think not.
Chill out, Bernie. Not that big of a deal.
Oh, you don't see it?
No, yeah, I totally see it. It just doesn't matter. Also, where was Bernie in this movie? We totally could have had more Bernie. Finally, the last thing on our list, No Manison Island, which, while you may not immediately recognize it by name, I do think that you would remember it. It's home to an active volcano, the Omnidroid, and none other than Syndrome. Originally, one of Helen's first solo missions was going to be going back to the island undercover as someone named Gina Strikert, which I was all like,
Oh, this is just too good.
like, holy noodles, can you even imagine if we even just had the slightest indication that there was any potential that Syndrome was still around somewhere? Almost like the Joker in Batman, I love the idea that Syndrome is sort of this villain that they keep defeating, but they can never properly vanquish. But seriously, if they had decided to keep this in there, like, who is still working on this island? Is it still continuing to like exist on without their key inventor? Is it just run by like a tribe of Omnidroids that pieced each other back together from their own wreckage? Or is Mirage just running like the most volcano-y bed and breakfast of all time? Honestly, I like both of those scenarios. Also, Mirage, they totally left out Mirage, which is an outrage. But it actually sounds like maybe that was more of a respect thing, as the actress who played her, Elizabeth Pena, died back in 2014. But there you go, that is everything that they left out of The Incredibles 2. For my question of the day, is there anything that they didn't include that you would have liked to have seen? Leave it in the towel section down below. Personally, I kind of wish like when Jack is entering all of the codes to enter Edna's lab that like the little gun would have dropped down because there was too many people in the room, and then he would have just kind of like blabbered at it and guessed. Also, Tony Loaf. Also, I wish we could have seen where Jack went when he went to the alternate dimensions.
It's true! I saw the whole thing!
By the way, a lot of the information for this video came from the book The Art of Incredibles 2, which is just absolutely amazing. There's so much cool information from like behind the scenes and everything in here. None of this video is at all sponsored by the book, but if you'd like your own copy, you can check the link in the description down below. But guys, as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like some more Incredibles action from us, you can click right here to find out the top 10 reasons why Syndrome is the best Pixar villain, or right here to find out how Edna Mode may be Boo's mom. But Jay, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you on Tuesday.